Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is all about the legendary Pokemon Yveltal, so let's get started by taking a look at its typing, ability, and stats. So to start things off, Yveltal is a dark flying type Pokemon introduced in a Generation 6, and the title legendary of Pokemon Y, as this Pokemon does represent the letter Y. But as for its ability, the only one that this Pokemon gets is known as Dark Aura, which increases the power of all Dark-type attacks while this Pokemon is on the field. Now, as far as how much this ability increases your attacks is concerned, it's somewhere around 30% to 33%. There's a little bit of a discrepancy as to what exactly it is at the moment, but it's somewhere in that area, and obviously we will be taking into account stab on top of the attack boost that this Pokemon is getting on all of its Dark-type attacks through this ability, allowing it to do increased damage with all of its Dark moves. But as for its stats, this Pokemon has base 126 HP, 95 defense, and 98 special defense, which means that all around this Pokemon should be able to take a hit or two in battle. Obviously, these are talking about Uber things, which are crazy high stats in all the areas, so as far as a super legendary Pokemon is concerned, Yveltal fits right in terms of its defense stats being just pretty great all around. But as for its attacking stats, this Pokemon has base 131 physical and special attack, which allows this Pokemon to do a ton of damage from both the physical and special side, which is really great for allowing it to break down a ton of different Pokemon you're going to run into in the Uber tier. And lastly, this Pokemon does have base 99 speed, meaning that it is pretty quick, but it is going to be a little bit on the slower end when compared to other legendary Pokemon, as it falls just short of the base 100 speed tier, and will allow it to essentially be outsped by plenty of other Pokemon. So that is something to keep in mind. However, this Pokemon still can be very quick if you run a Choice Scarf on it or anything like that. And if you will note, this Pokemon and Xerneas have the exact same base stats all around, but completely different typings and completely different move pools, which is honestly a pretty cool way to do legendaries, at least in my opinion, and both of these are extremely powerful and usable in the Uber tier, if that is something you're interested in. So for the first set that I have for you in this video, we are going to start off by giving Yveltal either a timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, or a hasty nature to increase its speed but lower its physical defense. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Dark Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. And for the item, we can either go with a Choice Specs to increase your special attack by 1 stage while locking you into a move, a Choice Scarf to increase your speed by 1 stage while locking you into a move, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacks while giving you the freedom to switch up your moves since you won't be locked into anything, but you do take a 10% recoil every time you do hurt your opponent, or an Expert Belt to increase the damage of all the attacks that Yveltal is able to hit its opponents with for super effective damage. But as far as its moves are concerned, the first one that we're going to be going with on this set is going to be Dark Pulse, which is pretty much going to be your main go-to move at all times, due to the fact that this move is going to be boosted by Dark Aura, increasing its power, and also be boosted even further by the stab that you get, since Yveltal is obviously a dark type as well. Also, this move does have a chance to flinch, which could come in handy and be very beneficial in a pinch if you do need that extra hacks to get you the victory in battle. But as for its next move, we are going to be going with our main special flying type attack, which is either going to come in the form of its signature move Oblivion Wing, or Hurricane, which is a significantly more powerful move that also has a chance to confuse our opponent. Now, Oblivion Wing is fantastic in the sense that it is able to recover a ton of health, because it recovers more than a normal draining move would, considering that this is obviously probably like a special Pokemon and a signature move. It recovers 3/4 of the damage you do as opposed to the usual 1/2. So this will allow Yveltal to essentially keep its HP up for a very long time in battle, while also dishing out plenty of flying type damage. But Hurricane is still the more powerful option, and because you can very easily use this Pokemon alongside Kyogre, Hurricane will very often hit and be a very powerful move for you to use when you need this thing to do damage, and maybe expect something to easily come in and take a Dark Pulse. But also for coverage on this set, you do have access to Focus Blast, which is another fantastic move to allow you to have some super effective coverage against plenty of Steel types, as well as normal types as well, and all those types of things that Focus Blast is really good with. And then for the last move slot, you can either run U-turn to allow this Pokemon to be an effective scout and give you switch initiative while also doing some decent bug type damage in the process, or you can run Sucker Punch to give this guy some priority. Even though we're not investing in physical attack on the set, the Dark Aura boost and your just natural physical attack is still very high, allowing Sucker Punch to do a ton of damage, and definitely something that could very much come in handy for this Pokemon to give it some priority and take out a very speedy opponent that you might be up against. Up next, I have a set for Yveltal that is similar in coverage to the previous set, but is designed to do something completely different. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Timid Nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, and then we're going to be going with the Dark Aura ability. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. And as for the item, we can either go with Leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of our attacks, but keeping in mind that 10% recoil that you do take, or an Expert Belt to increase the damage of all of your attacks that are able to hit your opponent for some super effective damage. But as far as the moves on the set are concerned, the first one we're going to be going with is going to be Substitute, which will allow Yveltal to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses, and make your opponent have a very difficult time dealing with this Pokemon, because when you are behind a Substitute, they will have to first break the Substitute to then do damage to Yveltal, and because of the fantastic coverage you get on this set, you will more often than not be able to dent a Pokemon significantly, or maybe even take something out in the process as your opponent tries to break down your Substitute. But for those attacking moves, the first one we're going to be going with, again, is going to be Dark Pulse, to give us a very powerful Dark-type move that is also boosted by the Dark Aura ability. And then along with that, we're going to be going with its signature move, Oblivion Wing, to allow this Pokemon to do some really solid flying-type damage, and also get some really significant recovery every time we attack with this move. And that is also partly why running a Life Orb on this set can be done very easily, even though we are also using Substitute, which is taking away a bit of our health, because the recovery from Oblivion Wing is so significant that you can pretty much cancel out the Life Orb recoil you take when you use the move, and thus allowing you to use a boosted attack with really very little side effect. And then for the last move on the set, we are again going to be going with Focus Blast to give this Pokemon some really well-rounded coverage all around and be able to hit a ton of things on our opponent's side of the field for at least neutral or super effective damage. Up next, I have a mixed offensive boosting set for Yveltal to run, which I believe could be one of its most deadly sets that it is able to use. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Hasty Nature to increase its speed but lower its physical defense, and for the ability, we're going to be going with Dark Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its physical attack, 252 into its special attack, and then 252 EVs into its speed to give it its max special attack and speed possible. And for the item, we can either go with a Life Orb, an Expert Belt, or Leftovers on the set to allow it to either have increased damage through the Life Orb and Expert Belt, or recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn with the Leftovers item. But as for the moves, the first one we're going to be going with on this set is going to be Hone Claws, which is a boosting move that simultaneously boosts your physical attack and your accuracy by 1 stage. And both of these boosts are going to come in handy on this set because we are going to be making use of some pretty inaccurate moves, as well as 1 physical move that can be boosted to some incredible power and also can be very deadly due to it being priority move. So for the first attacking move we're going to go with on this set, along with Hone Claws, we're going to be running Hurricane, which is the stronger of the flying type moves that this Pokemon is able to learn. Obviously, Oblivion Wing only 80 base power, whereas Hurricane is significantly more than that, and also has that 30% chance to confuse your opponent. And with a Hone Claws boost, and just 1 boost, Hurricane will almost always never miss, which is something really great for that. Along with Focus Blast, which has the same accuracy as Hurricane, this move will almost always never miss after a Hone Claws boost as well, and gives you some pretty awesome type coverage in combination with the Hurricane. But the last move on this set is going to be dedicated to Sucker Punch, which is going to be boosted to some pretty high levels if we are able to get up a Hone Claws boost or 2, and potentially take out any speedy attackers that want to be able to come in on this Yveltal and possibly take it out. But because you have the priority and possibly even boosted priority, on top of the fact that this is also getting a Dark Aura boost, you are very easily able to potentially take out any attacker that will want to come in and dispatch Yveltal, as it has the priority Sucker Punch to make use of in order to get the jump on the opponent instead and deal with it very easily. So overall, this set has the potential to be incredibly threatening for this Pokemon, as it will not only allow it to use some very powerful but typically inaccurate moves that will almost always never miss because of Honed Claws, but will also allow it to use Sucker Punch to even greater extent than on the previous sets that you've seen it with, because of the Honed Claws boosting its physical attack and allowing Sucker Punch to do even more damage. And lastly, I have a set for Yveltal that might seem pretty obscure on this Pokemon, but because it has access to the necessary moves to run this type of set, I figured that there was no reason to not post it in this video anyway. So we're going to start this one off by giving it either a Timid Nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, or a Hasty Nature to increase its speed but lower its physical defense. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Dark Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max both of those stats out. And then for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, as you can see right here, we are going to be running the Substitute Disable combination, which will allow this Pokemon to get behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks, and then easily disable any attack that would be directed at this Pokemon to break its sub. And once you have successfully disabled your opponent's attack, you will then freely most likely be able to make more substitutes, as your opponent will have to rely on either a less powerful move or a less useful move to try and take out your substitute. Or, if they are a choiced Pokemon, they will have to struggle, so they'll most likely have to switch out in this situation. Now, this combination is typically seen on Gengar, but Yveltal can do it very well as well, and also get off a huge chunk of damage in the process after your opponent's moves have potentially been disabled. Now, you can obviously only disable one move at a time, but if that move is the only thing that can really do significant damage to Yveltal, you're in a pretty good position against your opponent. So with that, we are going to be running Oblivion Wing again to allow us to have that really nice recovery that this move provides, as well as a very strong flying type attack for Yveltal to make use of. And then for the last move slot, we are either going to be going with Dark Pulse or Sucker Punch. And the reason why Sucker Punch works so well on the set, even though we aren't really focusing on boosting its attack at all with any EVs, is that when you are behind a substitute, your opponent is essentially forced to attack you in order to break the sub, as any non-attacking moves won't really work. So you'll easily be able to just force them into attacking you, making Sucker Punch work like 100% of the time once you have a substitute up. So that can be a very useful combination, but obviously Dark Pulse probably will be the move doing more damage on this set, since we are maxing our special attack and also having that potential chance to flinch, which is always really nice, and also getting that Dark Aura boost. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video, so I wanted to thank you all for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and also bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these Yveltal sets, as well as every other set I've done in the analysis series thus far. Only one more Pokemon to do, which will come out tomorrow, so that'll be something cool to look forward to. And also, feel free to join the Zat, which is basically a chat room where you can find people's friend codes, get friend safaris, battle, trade, and all that good stuff at zat.com/pokegrounds. But as always, everybody, thank you all for watching. Take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.